Maybe the oddity is we've seen him sitting in front of this chessboard a lot that only has one side full of pieces that have never been moved. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stone Face Reactions. I'm Theta, this is Justin, and we are back with another episode of Fate Zero. First off, thank you to SevTQ for once again sponsoring these episodes. I apologize that I'm in this, but I'm washing my clothes at the moment, so you're getting what you're getting. We take what opportunities we can get. But yeah, without you, we wouldn't be watching this show, and once again, the only thing I knew about the show was the Grail dialogue last episode, and I have been waiting for that the entire goddamn time, so I'm happy that we at least got there. After that, though, we have some comments. Alex V9, as you might remember as a commenter from Jujutsu Kaisen episodes, commenting from the Patreon, from a Night of Schemes. Wow, thanks for rereading my comment. Fate lore is one of the most complicated to understand due to the expansive creation of concepts. So when a fan tries to explain them to beginners, it only manages to confuse them more. That's why the holy words of the fandom are "Don't worry about it." Sorry, they put full caps. So I couldn't decide if I wanted to yell or not. Some corrections for misunderstandings. I know you're advanced on Patreon, but I hope it's still helpful. I mean, technically you're posting on the Patreon, so you're literally seeing exactly as far in as we are. So, I guess keep that in mind. 1. The root / Akasha, as I already mentioned, is the place of origin of existence, but it cannot be considered chaos. If chaos and order are materials that shape the universe, this place is where they are created. The root is where everything and nothing is. That is why it is called the paradoxical metaphysical plane. P.S. Ether is a magical element in Fate. I think this one comes from when we were discussing it, I was talking about the book series Incarnations of Immortality, wherein, ironically, the book about fate, therein being the 3 aspects of fate from Greek mythos.
Yep.
You know, the old ladies with one eyeball in the old movies.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, where one of them goes to, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically ether, where they just pull the ether out and they form it into string by which to weave the tapestry of fate. So I believe that's just commentary on my little back and forth about that and whatever it is in the Fate universe. Not whatever it is, the root and Akasha as it is. 2. Regarding other planets and their consciousness. Yes, all celestial bodies, stars, planets, and some moons have consciousness similar to the Earth. They can even communicate with each other, but they never intervene in each other's affairs.
Interesting. I think that would matter if you watched more Fate series.
I have no idea how it would ever matter. It reminds me of YouTube shorts where all the other planets start talking to Earth about the infestation it has on its surface. And Earth's like coughing as though it was like a heavy smoker or something because we're polluting the planet. You gotta get rid of those humans, man. Because they're treating the other planets talking about us like we're fleas. Like they're infestation.
And we kind of are.
Because the other planets don't have them, obviously.
That we know of.
I've already talked about that before, I feel like. 3. Regarding... Sorry, I never know which way to angle this. My camera isn't exactly where my fingers would feel like they should be. I'm actually pointing my fingers this way to make them look like this. Regarding true magic, I gave a vague concept to not give spoilers. However, it's a topic that will not be deeply touched upon in any anime adaptation, only mentioned. In essence, the true magics are like Marvel's Infinity Stones. The difference is that you can only possess one of the 5 existing known ones. It is impossible to exercise a small power. Sorry. It's impossible to exercise a similar power through science. Although, in my humble opinion, given that science develops exponentially, I think it would be possible in no less than 1,000,000 years.
Interesting.
I mean, no offense to Alex V9, but I feel like they pulled that out of their ass. I mean, one, science doesn't actually develop exponentially, it just appears to. You might recall that there's actually a half-life on knowledge, that in like a couple of years, I believe it is, things that we knew as true are already proven false via new knowledge.
Okay, that's what you meant by the statement. Yep. No,
Yeah, my problem is
you're correct.
I picked that up from a show called QI. Have you watched that or heard that?
Oh, never watched it, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, quite interesting is what it's short for. Where they cover facts and misinformation and things like that. And they use that as an example of stuff that when they first started the show, the facts that they gave, like 70% of it is now wrong. I think they even did a whole cute little thing where they readjusted points for people who got the right answer back then, but it was actually known to be wrong back then. So, yeah, there's the
Interesting.
half-life of knowledge. And obviously, no less than 1,000,000 years, I can only say is pedantically correct, possibly.
That might be the best type of correct.
Yeah, well, I mean, no less than 1,000,000 years just means under 1,000,000 years, which is like, you could say no less than 1 billion years, and it sounds crazy, but it's like, yeah, sure, maybe. Maybe the high science will be mimicked by, I'm sorry, high magic or true magic could be mimicked by high science in 1 billion years or less.
It could also be the thing of like Asgardian technology is seen as magic to those who are not are not privy to it.
Which Asgard?
I'm going more MCU Asgard.
See, I was thinking Stargate SG-1, where the Asgards are the gray aliens. No, you never saw that? They each one
No.
of them is named after like, was it? It's Norse mythology. So you actually have Thor, but Thor's a little gray alien on a spaceship.
Okay.
But like on planets that are based around them, they're all still like Norse mythology. So you get the giant guy with a hammer, but his hammer is actually just super science that kills Goa'uld that pass through it.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. 4. Regarding the afterlife. In Fate, there is no afterlife. When a conscious being dies, its body returns to dust, and the soul/consciousness returns to nothingness/the root.
The fact that it's so simple is beautiful.
I mean, is it simple? It returns
Absolutely.
to nothingness/the root. So nothingness is a place. That's a very confusing concept. Simple would be getting rid of that root part. Returns to nothingness. That's simple.
Well, no, because it then doesn't eliminate the fact that people can be pulled, right?
Pulled where?
Into the contest.
If they're dead and you go nowhere when you die, I guess the implication is you're being pulled from time and not anywhere
Yeah.
else. Well, I mean, I don't know if that makes that simpler either. The ironic thing here is that I'm instantly thinking about
It's complex, but not complicated.
I'm instantly thinking of Incarnations of Immortality again, the very first example that I had with the series with the fate thing. Because the very first book is On a White Horse, which deals with deals with death. Death rides a white horse. Because one of the people, his whole job is he goes to souls that are imbalanced, because in that universe there's a heaven and there's a hell.
Yep.
And if your soul is perfectly balanced between good and evil, he has to then personally attend to you to judge your soul to see which way you should go. And one of the people he has to go to is an atheist, doesn't believe in either of it. So when he goes to take his soul, it just evaporates. His belief causes him to go to nothingness because that's what he believes in. So that is, for me, this simpler concept that if you
Interesting.
don't believe in heaven and hell, you won't go to heaven and hell. All right.
That's a terrifying. That's a terrifying concept for a tabletop game.
Oh, for a tabletop game. I thought you were going to go with reality. I
No,
guess if you
no,
ever want to
because
think of it as not a terrifying concept, I want to make a quick recommendation. The it's not the Darjeeling Limited. It is Sunset. Sorry, the Sunset Limited, which is a short film with just Samuel L. Jackson and cannot remember who was the other main character in Men in Black.
Will Smith,
No, the other guy.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson in a room together talking is the entire movie. It's about a professor who tries to kill himself by throwing himself in front of a subway train called the Sunset Limited, and the janitor, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who saves him but pulls him back into his apartment and like locks him in so that they can have a long conversation. And it's all about why this professor wants to kill himself and hopes that there is no afterlife. It is a very philosophical movie, and I would very much recommend it to anybody who wants that back and forth.
I might check that out.
All right. I actually have a clip of it really early in the channel where I was just making clips of stuff back in my pre-AMV days before I deleted all my AMVs as well. Lastly, though, number 5. There are other astral layers, parallel worlds, and dimensions within the root. By the way, the root is nothing, as we've already covered. These are some of the most mentioned/important ones. Reverse world. It's an astral layer of the world where all magical creatures, mystical places, gods, and primordials are found. They retire to this place after certain events that began to limit their interaction with humans and the world. Parentheses, don't worry about it. The Throne of Heroes. It's a place existing in the root where the souls of the people or beings that marked the history of the world are recorded. Why? Don't worry about it. Parallel worlds. In the root, there's an infinite network of parallel worlds/universes separated by a layer of infinite energy/mana, making it impossible to access and interact with them. Only one magician in existence is capable of traveling and interacting with them because he is the wielder of one of the true magics. Said magician has an important role in the Fate series and in the origin of the Grail. Don't worry about it.
I was about to say, hold on. There's a don't worry about it coming.
Oh, my thought was, isn't that just Doctor Strange?
No,
The Sorcerer Supreme? Technically, he's not the Sorcerer Supreme in Marvel anymore, but technically still the same role. Does that count as worrying about
I
it?
can't. Doctor Strange to me doesn't have that role. Yes, he is Sorcerer Supreme, but to me, Doctor Strange is the guy who can somehow reach to places where you're not supposed to go, but it's not because he should be able to do it.
Well, spoiler, he's not the Sorcerer Supreme in the movies anymore.
It's
But
true.
I guess maybe the Beyonder then?
Yes, I would put it much closer to that.
And Outer World/universe. It's a universe existing outside the network of parallel worlds where life forms beyond human sorry. I imagine they meant to say comprehension, but they've said beyond human compression live as the outer gods. These beings possess power beyond imagination. However, despite their immense power, they cannot enter the universe or the network of parallel worlds at will. So, can they enter somehow? Don't worry about it. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Even though I assume it's more like Cthulhu, Elder Gods sort of situation.
Yeah, I would assume it's more of like a Cthulhu King in Yellow, like weird esoteric BS. Because Dormammu's a little bit too explainable for that stuff.
Well, it's more so that Dormammu, they say they can't enter the parallel worlds at will. Dormammu can't enter our plane at will.
That might be the case, but Dormammu it is nowhere near the level of that. I would put Dormammu more in like one layer before that because you can somewhat comprehend Dormammu.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got the powers. He just on our physical reality. Well, except that he doesn't understand time. So, if not for the fact of having Stephen Strange as a point of view mechanic, the fact that he doesn't understand time also implies that his reality works differently without us. And I guess also skiing Dormammu, the implication that he is energy in a rotating format of some sort would also imply that there's something there that is non-understandable about him.
So yes, but it's not that it's. That's why I put it one layer before.
Well,
Because it's not like trying to comprehend Dormammu would start to break Steven's mind.
I guess to be fair, it's only the concept of me trying to explain that he is understandable is the ununderstandable aspect. Because a lot of
Correct.
Cthulhu ununderstandable shit is actually pretty simple when you start thinking about it. Or when you read the descriptions, like a world without corners, where everything seems to just be a little bit melted together more than it should be. And it's that little change.
It's the uncanny valley of it.
Yeah, the little changes that make the world drive you crazy. That and the cultist killed your wife.
Yeah.
P.S. The phrase "don't worry about it" means that it is very complicated and lengthy to explain. Thanks for reading the comment. I hope this helps. I hope you enjoy the madness that is Fate and the Nasuverse. I guess my thing is that it's not that terribly complicated. One of my favorite manhwa slash, I guess 2 seasons now anime is Tower of God.
Yep.
And the tower itself is kind of a thing, in that there's a world outside of the tower, but the tower itself is also its own world. And every floor of the tower is basically like a slice of the earth, in that it's
Okay.
that massive and it's its own contained ecosystem and everything. But the further idea is that SIU, who's the creator of Tower of God, Slave in Utero is what that stands for, um, also created like a whole metaverse around it, and some of the more crazy characters in Tower of God that have like appeared once, did a thing, and then they left, but they're still a legend in this place, come from that bigger metaverse
Got
where
it.
people's superpowers are that they can basically author existence. It's the power of story, basically.
Yep.
Um, and the one time I believe you got shown that is like from a character who's sitting on top of a tower, looking out of a field filled with towers. So the idea is that the whole Tower of God universe might just be like one tower amongst tons of towers. Everything in this huge universe of shit is just a little story. It's complicated narrative, but just means that I could kind of understand this super complicated thing that's being put out
Yeah.
here, the Nasu verse.
Well, again, it's a testament to the difference between complicated and complex. Because complicated, that's when you run into issues. Complicated is when you get something that you can't understand because rule A and rule B matter in situation A, but if it's situation B, rule B only matters with rule C. And it's like that weird mixture of like, why do I need to know all this?
Yeah, a lot of if these things make sense independently and we know how they operate together, we can form a working model of how the world works, versus if they're just complicated for the sake of being complicated, then that doesn't help us put anything together.
Correct. Like the best example I have is like if you look at a good table, like again, because tabletop is a lot of the stuff I've done. If you look at a good system with tabletop, as a standard, I can do this. Unless you add on this thing which lets me do this. You know what I mean? Like building upon itself.
We've talked about it at length during Jujutsu Kaisen that my favorite character in that show is based on a different character from Bleach. The author has said as much. Literally, literally his power up, Kenpachi, the guy from Bleach, is that the entire show he is extremely strong, considered to be the strongest person alive. He's one hand swings, and when he has to power up because his life is dependent on it, he talks about how the main guy in charge of everything once tried to teach him to be more powerful, and he puts his second hand on the blade and starts swinging with two hands. That's his power up. So
I
just you
like
go
that.
in the difference between this to be this and this, it's like, yeah, that's Kenpachi. Dude's a powerhouse.
But it's kind of a beautiful basis to like it's a good example of building simple and then adding on to it until you get to a point where you have something that is intricate.
I think it's the difference, say, between Jujutsu Kaisen and I want to say Bleach because it's a good parallel I've already made, but like it implies the same thing with everything that came before it, Naruto and maybe even One Piece, where people with power sets, when they need to power up, they don't just get more powers. They use their existing power set in new ways. So,
Yes.
like One Piece, Luffy is a rubber man, so stretching has been his thing. So, you constantly see, like, whoa, throws his arm out, it goes way off that way, and then flies back with increased speed to punch somebody. But
Hmm.
then, when he gets more powers, all he does is does more rubber shit, like inflates his body so his fist becomes as big as a person to punch them with, or things like that. Or, you know, Zanpakuto in Bleach, the swords called Zanpakuto, they have like a base power. Like I can't think of anything right now. It's been a long time since I've watched Bleach, but they tend to be thematic, and the increases are just more things that work off of that first thing. But then you get to Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's like I hit hammers with nails. All right, well, what's your next power? I do voodoo dolls. And it's like, okay, that's kind of a kind of a stretch on hammers and nails, but I'll follow you, I guess.
So to me, that's not a stretch on hammers and nails, only because it's focusing on one of the elements of that base power.
Well, I mean, it's a stretch in that, okay, I hammer nails into things, and then somebody thought, okay, hammers nails into things. What other things hammers nails into things? Well, you put pins in voodoo dolls. What if we hammer nails into voodoo dolls? It's like, tangentially, those are connected, but if I was trying to make this as simple as possible, that's not really where I would go.
Yes, no, I agree with that. So, but I don't think the goal is to make it simple. I think the goal is to have it be complex.
Right. Anyway, I don't remember when we got on the Jujutsu Kaisen boat, but we do have a couple more comments.
Oh yeah.
From the YouTube, the next two comments are we have Fenrir756 says, one thing that is not made very clear, by the way, from the same episodes, just one's from YouTube and the other's from Patreon.
Got it.
One thing that is not made very clear in the anime, but is in the visual novel, is that to become the ideal king, Saber essentially killed off her emotions and humanity. While she holds the same ideals she did as king, her current state is somewhat different to how she was when she ruled as king, as her emotions now have influence over her decision making. Also, I believe this was only briefly touched on at the beginning, but Saber technically was not summoned from the Throne of Heroes. By the way, we only just heard about that from the last comment. So,
Yep.
good back to backing there, people who had no connection to one another. And she has been directly summoned from the past just before her death, but after the Battle of Camlin ended. Also, in
Okay.
Gilgamesh's original legend, I believe one of the ways he oppressed his people before meeting Enkidu and becoming a better person was his tendency to invoke prima nocta and sleep with brides on their wedding night before their husbands.
I forgot about that. That is historically a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know prima nocta is historically a thing. I don't know much about Gilgamesh's history. And the Battle of Camlin, I actually know more from Babylon 5 than I do actual Arthurian legend. From that one Babylon 5 episode where the guy who thinks he's King Arthur, I think because he feels he's the guy who opens the first shot in the Minbari War, which kills most of the human population of everywhere. So he's got that deep guilt inside of him. And
Yeah.
I can't remember why he's lurking for the Grail, some sort of internal logic thing of his guilt, but he's constantly using the Battle of Camlin as his internal metaphor for firing the first shot at their first encounter with the Minbari, which starts the whole war, because I believe the Battle of Camlin starts with a negotiation, and then there's like a viper rises up near one of the people, and they pull their sword to kill the viper, and pulling the sword is the instigating factor for the other guys. Says if one of us draws their sword, then you attack, and they see the guy drawing the sword to attack the viper, which is the signal, so they attack, which then causes the entire fight to happen. It was a misunderstanding, which caused the death of many.
That you know what? That's never happened in history.
Well, I mean that's why it's a good metaphor for the Earth Minbari War, because the Minbari, as a show of respect, always approach with their gun ports open to show that they're not preparing to fire anything. But their technology is so advanced that Earth sensors can't penetrate to realize that they're not armed. So all they see is this alien force approaching with their gun ports open. So they open
Ooh.
fire in self-defense because they think they're about to be attacked. So a misunderstanding which causes the death of many. It's a very good, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, that's some dirty storytelling, and I'm here for it.
Oh, it also was a great movie because they made a movie basically out of the whole Earth Minbari War called In the Beginning. But yeah, that was that comment. Next up we have Il Parazzo, which I assume is how you say that, because I have no idea. Thanks for the reaction. Looks like you two had your own version of the Grail dialogue at the end. Most servants won't bother trying to adapt to modern sensibilities despite the Grail catching them up on history. Edit, just to clarify, the servants in Ryder's noble phantasm were actually part of his army when he was alive and the same era.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know, some of them seemed like they were not of the same era, so I don't
Uh,
know.
no, because part of the thing was the army that he fostered was made up of so many different types of people. It wasn't just his people that he took into his army.
Right. No, I meant like appearance, based on appearance. Like I
No,
thought that they looked like they were from different eras.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that his army was like, I don't want to use the word mercenary, but it was comprised of a bunch of different things. But no, I mean, like, I could swear I saw a pirate in there. Like, it's just, dude was
So no,
carrying
you
weaponry. No, I mean, like,
you
not modern pirate,
more modern.
1600s pirate, which would have been outside of his field. Like, I could have sworn I saw a conquistador out there. Like, people not of the era. Because obviously Alexander the Great is BC. And I'm talking about people who would have been 1,000 years after Christ.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the comments. We've got the board here as well. Now, I don't remember if I forgot to put somebody up because last episode really was kind of a bottle, if you will, in that we were like mainly in one location discussing everybody's viewpoints, and then there was the battle at the end. But there was also the conversation with oh crap, what is his name? Uh, Goodamine,
Mm-hmm.
who has relationships with other people or something like that.
Yes.
You know, while we got the board up, why don't you go ahead and do the recap?
Well, I think that really is just the recap. Because there was the discussion between Arthur, Ryder, and Gilgamesh over alcohol. Because they started off with with I want to say rum. Then Gilgamesh was like, "What's this? We're not drinking this."
Yeah, because Alexander stole a giant barrel. No, did he steal the barrel or did it come from his reserve?
Um, he stole it
Because
because
Gilgamesh has
Gilgamesh's
the
king
reserve, right?
was reserved. Um, and that turned into a whole discussion about what makes a great leader. They all had different viewpoints, but at the end, Alexander determined that Arthur was not a good leader, at least
Yeah.
by his standard.
Well, that was the thing. Like, that was the whole conversation that we had was that there's different viewpoints on what makes a good leader, and oh god, it was so in depth that I kind of can't remember everyone's viewpoint on everybody else.
1,000,000%.
I mean, I
But
mainly
then
remember Alexander's because Alexander is my guy, and his is the point that everybody needs to follow the king. The king is to be exemplary of all things, even the
correct,
negative ones.
the king has to lead by example and show that there is another side to rulership. That the king is the one that gives permission to indulge and do the various things.
Well, the king should be somebody people aspire to be.
Exactly. But then it ended with assassin attacking, and instead of them getting overwhelmed, Alexander was like, "I've got this army."
Yeah, again, the implication I got here is that I think Assassin might be actually dead
Um,
because it feels like they brought all of Assassin, and then all of Assassin got dragged into the desert because of Alexander's big old power.
I wouldn't be surprised
I mean, we saw a
because
lot of Assassins die.
we have yet to see an actual death happen yet, like of one of the main people, because we still have yet to see Castor die.
Right. Well, I just mean that we know that there's over 200 assassins or whatever,
Yeah.
and it seemed like there were a lot of them there, and a lot of them got killed.
I would not be surprised if we are down to like one assassin.
Well, I've put both of them there as crossed out dead. So if there are living assassins still, I will uncross one of them.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've got the white line between Gilgamesh, Alexander, and I guess it's calling her Saber. The weird thing about Saber is that she represents King Arthur or Queen Arthur or whatever you want to say. But
King
Saber is
Arthur.
the sorry, the word nomenclature is the word my brain wants to use. Saber is the word we use to say describe her more often than not. But we don't typically call Gilgamesh Archer, or I guess sometimes we call him Rider, but I call him Alexander most of the time. It just feels weird calling her Arthur. I mean, by the same token, we don't call Castor Bluebeard, so
True.
I'm never going to say this guy's actual name.
No, my tongue would break.
All right, so anything else we want to get into before we get to the episode?
I don't think so.
All right, well, let's go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
Make sure that you hit the like button.
hit that subscribe button.
Comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
Uncensored.
And uncut.
as well as some early access stuff,
You can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
ライダーの宝具評価はギルガメッシュのゲート・オブ・バビロンと同格、つまり評価規格外です。
Okay.
確かに目論んだ通りの結末ではある。もし予備知識のないままライダーと対決していたら、あの宝具に対処する
No,
術を見
okay.
出せる
Just making him reveal his power.
So in that case, does Arthur have something that they have yet to pull out that is on that level?
Don't know.
ここから先は第二局面だ。アサシンが収集した情報をもとにアーチャーを動員して敵を駆逐していく。ライダーに処する対策もその中でおのずと見えてくるだろう。
It's not a great plan either, though.
マスターとしての務め、ご苦労だった。
It's not a bad plan, though.
As a master, your work is done, so Kodamine might be out of the picture.
Oh, I agree with that.
Also, we're what? What episode are we on? 12? How many episodes of this season
12.
are there? Don't remember offhand. But yeah, no. I mean, it's not a good plan because they're anticipating to come up with a plan in the process. Let's mobilize Archer to take out everybody else, and we'll come up with something to defeat Ryder in the process. That's not great planning. In fact, that's planning to improvise.
See, that is them, him acknowledging, I don't know how to beat Ryder.
13 episodes this season. So we're at the penultimate episode of the season,
Oh, shit.
which is makes it more impactful that he's like, let's mobilize to win. Well, I mean, literally, they are planning to improvise to beat Ryder. We know what his thing is now, but we're not like, okay, let's plan on how to beat him. Let's get Archer, we're gonna start kicking some asses, and something will come up that'll let us beat him.
おそらく昨夜の襲撃はアサシンの
Oh,
戦
see,
力
that's what I
を総
said.
動員したものと思われます。
分かった。ところでマイヤ、新しい工房の件はどうなっている？
明日の朝にはマダムたちを案内する予定です。
ああ、頼む。
はい。
I forgot what an atelier means. Or what it is.
Nice little sandwich.
I'm fasting today because I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so
初日
great.
のアサシン撃退以来、時臣は穴熊を決め込んだまま、不気味なまでの沈黙。マトウのマスターは見るからに無防備で、襲撃は容易に見える。
Okay, old worm guy's back.
バーサーカーの不可解な特殊能力は、アーチャーとトーサカを牽制する意味でも、今は泳がせておくべきだろう。ロード・エルメロイは再起不能のはずだが、ランサーは脱落していない。
Except for his wife, who is basically trying to cuck him as actively as possible.
キャスターの居所は依然として不明だが、昨夜もまた市内で数名の児童が失踪した。
That being said, though, based off the description, I don't think you can blame the wife.
Depends. I don't know the guy's mythos, if there's like a whole legend about people resisting him or not.
一見合法に見えるが、隙のない難敵だ。
That's the thing, the legend has him as irresistible.
アイオニオンヘタイロイという宝具のことも気になる。しかし、それよりも。
今度こそアサシンは完全消滅したと思っていいのでは。
では。
Also, the legend is about people falling in love with him. I think we can still blame her for torture.
Oh, torture, yes.
トーサカと組んでアサシンに諜報活動をさせる作戦ならば、奴は不行協会から一歩も出てはいけなかったはずだ。しかし現実は違う。不行ハイアットでの待ち伏せ、アインツベルンの森への侵入、どちらも不可解な行動だ。もっとも、奴の目的が僕だったとすれば筋は通る。だがなぜだ？なぜ僕を狙う？一昨日の段階では、僕がセイバーのマスターであるという事実は知り得なかったはず。琴峰キレイ、貴様は何者だ？
That one priest's son? The guy who's monitoring the whole event? I think you would know that much.
今日はまた随分と上機嫌だな、アーチャー。
聖杯とやらの格は未だに見えぬが、たとえガラクタであったとしてもよしとしよう。俺はそれ以外の楽しみを見出した。
偽物ばかりの醜悪な世界とあざけっていたこの時代でか。
それは変わらぬ。だが、聖杯
These
戦
people
争とや
still
らは
fakes.
最後まで見届ける気になった。俺はな、傲慢なる
The oddity is we've seen him sitting in front of this chessboard a lot that only has one side full of pieces that have never been moved.
傲岸にも2種類あってな。器が小さすぎる場合と望みが大きすぎる場合。前者は珍しくもない愚昧に過ぎんが、後者はなかなか得難い珍種だ。
いずれも愚か
I
であ
mean,
る
your
ことに
reach exceeding
違
your
いはない
grasp is
で
just
はない
a
か。
motivator for growth.
凡俗な坂しさよりも、稀有な愚かしさの方が尊かろう。人に生まれ落ちながら、人ならざる領域の悲願を抱き、そのために人であることを捨てた者。見ていて飽きぬのだ。そういうものの悲哀と絶望は。
Okay.
綺麗。そういうお前こそ、今日は珍しく上機嫌に見えるぞ。
ただの安堵だ。煩わしかった重荷からようやく解放されたのでな。
消えた霊樹というのはその後どうなるのだ？
理屈の上では再び聖杯のもとへと帰る。サーバントを失ってマスターを失格となった者からは聖杯がその霊樹を回収す
So
る。
that we know that your dad has
も
them.
しマスターを失ったサーバン
In
ト
fact, he
Yeah.
advertised that fact before.
聖杯は回収した未使用分の霊樹を新たに選んだマスターへと
Now, is this a
再配布する。
choosing to withhold information situation?
最終的に残ったものは
No, there we go.
監督
Just
役
said
の
it.
手に委ねられることになる。
ではこの後の展開次第では新たなマスターが現れる可能性もあるということか。
そうだな。だが聖杯に選ばれる適格者というのはそうそういるものではない。
It's a weird thing to introduce this late in that a new master might appear.
結局聖杯
It
は
is.
以前にマスターとして見込んだ人間を
That might be the impetus of second
優先
season.
的に選ぶ傾向がある。
Or Core 2, whatever it is.
どうした？先を続けろよ。 綺麗。
戦いから脱落したマスターを聖堂教会が保護するのもそれが理由だ。彼らは残りのマスターに空席が生じた場合、かなりの確率で使い残しの霊児を再贈与される可能性が高い。
Okay, somebody from the
だから
last
こそ
war.
聖杯戦争の参加者は敵対するマスターを無力化するだけでなく殺そうとする。
その理屈でいけば綺麗。お前が再び霊児を得る可能性もまた大なのではないか。
ありえぬよ。聖杯が私に期待したのが時臣氏の説の通り遠坂陣営の援護であったなら、もう私はその役目を果たし終えた。時臣氏はすでに全てのマスターとサーバントに対する必勝戦略を用意
If
している。
all the assassins are dead,
今更私
that
の
would
出る
mean
幕
that he
は
has no mark
俺
or
に
no
言わせ
crest
れば
left, right?
そもそもその時臣の
Correct.
仮説こそが疑わしい。
So we would know
あ
immediately
の
if he's
男が
lying
そこ
or
ま
not
で聖杯に肩入れ
by
さ
his
れるほど
hands.
の器とは思えぬからな。
Oh.
自らのマスターに対しよくもそこまではばかりなく言えたものだ。
I suspect. I don't know if I'm right or not.
俺と時臣との主従関係について大きく誤解しているようだな。時臣は俺に進化として霊を尽くし、供物として魔力を献上している。そういう契約だからこそ俺はキャツの召喚に応じたのだ。
ならばレイジの存在はどう捉えている？
気に食わんが、真が良き進化足らんと務めるならば、時には還元に耳を
I mean, you let
傾ける
him
の
use a
もやぶ
command
さかで
spell
は
on you
ない。
before, even if he is
それより綺麗。
True.
お前はさっき
subservient to you.
アサシンが全て役目を果たしたと言っていたが、例の件はどうなった？
Well,
各マスター
is it
が
really
聖杯を
let
求める動機を
lets
知りたい
him
という
use a command
やつ。
spell? Because it doesn't seem like
ま、
something
そ
that
れなりの
can
調べは済んでいる。
be
昨夜のうち
controlled.
にアサシン
He
自
said
身
it was part of the
から
pact of their
報告させる
summoning
べきだった
that he would be
そう
subservient
す
to
れば
him,
説
so
明の手間も
he let
いい
him
や、
command
こ
him
れで
then.
いい。あんな影ごときの言葉などに興味はない。綺麗。これはお前の口を介して語られなければ意味のない報告だ。
They're
I
also
guess-
not.
I'm just confused by his motivation. Gilgamesh's, I mean. Because he's unconcerned about the Grail and finds it to be worthless, but he also seems to be the type that would be in the same camp as Ryder, in that they would have their own wish from the Grail.
I don't think he has a wish. I just think he doesn't want to lose.
Then why allow yourself to be summoned?
Because it's the next. It's the next thing that you're doing to keep yourself entertained.
私もいささか奇妙な感覚ではありますが、まるで遠い昔に腕に覚え込ませた技術を振るっているような感じです。理屈で理解するというより、自然と次の操作が思い当たるのです。それにしても大丈夫なのですか？新しい拠点にするという
Sitting there, I thought it was the mage killer behind them, and it was like, oh wait, the mage killer's their side. He's the master of this one. Just
Yeah.
these two were so together all the time, I kind of forgot myself.
Yeah.
あんな離れた立地に城を置いたアインツベルンの方が異質なぐらい。むしろ
In what I'm assuming is
所在が知られて
Germany.
いないという点で、キリツグが用意したっていう新しい拠点の方が以前の城よりも有利かもしれないわ。
I hope it is.
また随分と不思議な建物ね。
This clearly isn't Germany.
No, no, I meant their old castle. Specifically the one that we
Oh,
saw in
yes, yes.
episode 1.
わかりました。アリスピール。マイヤ、この鍵は何でしょうか？他のものとは随分違いますが。
It opens the basement where Alucard is being held.
古いですが、立て付けに不安がないのは確認済みです。何の準備もされていないので、生活の場としてはふさわしくないかもしれませんが。
構わないわ。とりあえず雨風さえしのげるなら文句は言いません。さて、それじゃあセイバー、新居の点検といきますか。そうですね。この国なりの幽霊屋敷って趣かしらね。
きっと廊下は板張りで干し草を編み固めた床に紙の間仕切りで部屋を分けて
I
るの
would
よ。
say ghosts aren't real, but clearly in this
昔日
universe.
本のお屋敷を見てみ
There's
た
no
よって
afterlife.
話したの。キリツグは覚えていてくれたのかしら。
Just means they're not fully dead yet. Yeah, I know.
No, just thinking that if there are ghosts, then they're not going to be actually ghosts. They're just going to be something that looks like ghosts and be explained in some other
そ
way.
れは堪能できたんだけど、
Parallel
Yep.
universe shit and
魔
whatnot.
術師の拠点として考えるとちょっと難しいのよね。ここ結界の敷設はいいんだけど工房の設置がね、こうも開放的な作りだと魔力が散逸しすぎるわ。できれば石か土で密閉された部屋が欲しかったんだけれど。
This is surprisingly a lot of exposition for a penultimate episode.
I mean, again, could just be set up. Like the last episode could just be set up for something in the next season.
Yeah.
Also, I guess this explains why Rin and her dad's place is like underground. If it has to be like what they just described, the similar
Yeah.
situation.
6フィート径で魔法陣を書くの。はい。水銀の調合からお願いすることになるわ。配分は私の方で指示するから大丈夫。それじゃあセイバー、車に積んである資材を持ってきてくれる？
アイリスフィル、一つ伺いますが、今日のあなたは何か物に触れることを慎重に避けている節がある。私の気のせいでしょうか。車の運転、鍵の扱い、その程度なら気にするまでもないと
I
思
mean,
っ
if
て
you're
ま
gonna be
した。
handling Mercury, I wouldn't want to touch things
Hey.
either.
魔術の実演まで、やはりご自身でなさろうとしない。もしも体調の不安なら、事前にそうと教えてもらわなければ。いざとなれば、
Well, no, because the implication is that she won't be handling the Mercury.
それ相応の配慮が必要になります。
ごめんなさいね。確かに隠してどうこうなるものでもなかったわ。手を出して。
She's a champion.
セイバー、今から私は精一杯
I have no idea what that
Oh,
fucking
no.
meant, and that was also
いい？
ええ、
it was also crazy to hear.
アイリスフィル。
What?
ふざけてるわけじゃないのよ。今の私にはこれで精一杯なの。
I mean, it's just a
指
normal
先に引
thing
っ
to
掛けたり
do.
するのがせいぜいで、握ったりつまんだりはとても無理。朝着替えるのにもかなり苦労しちゃった。
I know every time I ever had a surgery, one of the first things the
一体ど
the
うしたんで
doctor would
す？
do when they would come
ど
around
こか
was
怪我でも？
push back against my hand and that kind of stuff. Strength tests.
Yeah.
触覚を遮断してるの。五感の一つを封じるだけでも霊覚をかなり抑えられるから、他の行動には支障をきたさなくて済むってわけ。こういう融通が利くのってホムンクルスの強みよね。
そんな簡単に済ませていい話ではないでしょう。そもそも体の不調というのは一体何なのです？手当てが必要なのでは？
忘れているかもしれないけど、私は普通の
Is she
人間ではなくてよ。
Well, we know she's going to die.
But,
医者に
no,
How
I
many
know that.
conversations have we had about it so far?
But like,
この
is
不調は
this
まあ私の構造的欠陥とでも言うべき
is
もの
this
だ
the
から
setup for that to
大丈夫。
happen?
まあそうは言ってもいろいろとセイバーには迷惑をかけちゃうのよね。
I don't know.
今日みたいにもう車の運転はあなたに任
The
せるしかない
implication has always been that
魔術の儀式にも
her
手を
husband
貸してもらわな
or
きゃならないわ。
her original husband would be the one that kills her somehow.
私の騎士様。
もちろん
Unless that
こちらこそ
I don't know. He's had the
余計な
talk with
詮索をして
Homunculus
申し
too,
訳
so
あ
I
り
don't
ません
know.
でした。お許しを。
いいのいいの。さあ、それより手早く陣の敷設を済ませ
The
ちゃい
I'll
ま
be
し
the
ょう。
one to kill you conversation I assume had with the real woman many years ago in the first episode. So
Yeah.
the continued conversations he's had with the homunculus,
それでは
I
資材を持ってきます。
assume I don't know.
Just like death has always been lingering in the background, but this is giving
ライダー
death
のマスターに
flags
つ
for
いては
real.
別段聖杯に託するだけの願望があるわけでもなく、 ただ魔術師としての栄誉のために
Oh,
勝利を
so,
求めている。
Lord What's His Name
キ
doesn't
ャス
have
タ
a
ーのマ
wish.
スターに至ってはそもそ
Or
も
unless
聖
his
杯の
wife
何
doesn't
た
have
る
a
かさえ
wish.
理解していない。ただの快楽殺人の延長として聖杯戦争に加わっているに過ぎない。バーサーカーのマスターは何とも青臭いことに贖罪を求めている。自身が一旦魔頭家から蓄電したことで代わりに次期当主に祭り上げられることになった。
It's right, he gave the motivations for the masters, but he didn't include the fact that Ryder actually has a wish.
そのための取引材料として聖杯を
You know, Ryder wants to be real. Ryder wants to be a real boy.
しかもどうやら時代飯の奥方とも過去の因縁があるらしい。ある意味では5人の敵対マスターの中で最も卑俗で凡庸な動機の持ち主。
Yeah, that's right. Berserker's master has a thing for your master's wife.
どうした？続
Yep.
けろキレ。
セイバーのマスターはアインツベルンの積年の申し入、つまり聖杯の降臨を実現させたいという悲願のために金で雇われただけのようだ。
期待外れもいいところだな。所詮は雑種。どいつもこいつも凡俗なばかりで何の面白みもないくだらぬ理由で我が宝を求めよって。
Maybe we're building to a big next episode? Because that we should be, but
I mean, this episode's fine as it is.
it's just been a lot more exposition than I expected.
何を言うかキレ。お前とアサシンの骨折りには
I'm disappointed
十分な成果
that
が
he
あった
didn't
だろう。
bring up Ryder's motivation,
私をからかっているのか。
as though only the master's desire for the wish matters.
まあ無理もない。己の優越のありかさえ見定められぬ男だからな。自覚がなくとも魂というものは本能的に優越を追い求める。そういう心の動きは興味関心として思ってい
That
る
would be expensive.
ゆえに綺麗。お前が見聞きし理解した
Well, I mean, more so from Gilgamesh, who has his own stock. He's drinking a 1988 vintage, wherever Dechamp is.
お前の興味を引きつけた出来
I'm
事に
assuming
他
it's in
ならん。
Italy.
まず、お
It
前が
might
意図
be
的に言葉を
French.
伏せた人物については除外しよ
Look,
う。
my knowledge of wines, it's literally one of those two places. But
さてそうなる
I don't
と
know. I
残
guess
る4人のマスターのうち、お前が最も
De
熱を込めて
is a Italian of, I believe.
バーサーカーのマスター。確かカリアとか言ったかな。綺麗よ。この男については随分と司祭に報告してくれたではないか。
事情の入り組んでいる人物だ。それなりの説明を要したというだけのことだが。
違うな。お前はこの男について
No, as I thought,
入り組んだ
it's
事情が見
French.
えてくるほどの調
Again,
査を
if it's wine, it's one of the two. It's Italian or it's French.
お前自身の
So
無自覚な興味によってな。
判断のミスは認める。確かにマトウカリアは長い目で見れば脅威ではなく注目には値しない。私が彼を過大評価したことで結果的にお前の余計な詮索を招いてしまった。
そうきたか。では万が一の奇跡と行幸が重なってバーサーカーとそのマスターが最後まで生きながらえるシナリオを想定してみろ。その時何が起こるかお前には思い描けるか。なあ、綺麗よ。もういい加減に気づいてもいいのではないか。この問いかけの本質的な意味に。
教えろ、アーチャー。マトウカリアの勝利を仮想することに一体どういう意味がある。
Especially when you called him a
ない
mongrel
さ
before.
意味などみじんもない。おいおい、そう怖い顔するな。考えてもみろよ。その詭弁の無意味さについぞ琴峰綺麗が気づかなかったという事実。そこには明白にして揺るがぬ意味があるとは思わぬか。
説明しろ、アーチャー。
もし仮に他のマスターについて同じ課題を与えられていれば、お前は早々にその無意味さに気づき、せんないものとして一周していたはずだ。ところが カリアについてはそうはならなかった。お前は平時の無駄のない思考を放棄し、延々と虐待のない妄想にふけっていた。無意味さの忘却、苦にならぬ徒労、すなわち紛れもなく
I was just about to say very slowly moving pieces on the board. No, he's just fucking holding it in his hand.
お前はついに娯楽の何たるかを理解したのだぞ。
娯楽
Plus the payoff to this earlier conversation they had. I don't remember how many episodes ago.
マトウカリエの命運に人の悦たる要素など皆無だ。彼は生きながらえるほどに痛みと嘆きを積み重ねるしかない。いっそ早々に命を落とした方がまだ救われる人物だ。
綺麗よ。なぜそう悦を競技に捉える？痛みと嘆きを悦とすることに何の矛盾があるというのだ。優越のあり方に定型などない。それが下せぬから迷うのだ、お前は。
それは許されることではない。英雄を貴様のような人ならざる魔性なら他者の信仰蜜の味とするのもうなずける。
Ooh, that's a line.
それは罪人の魂だ。罰せられるべき悪徳だ。
It's actually a line I've heard before
綺麗が生きる信仰の道において
from
は
literally the Sunset Limited, that movie I talked
ゆえ
about
に優
before.
越そのものを罪と断じてきたか。よくそこまで屈折できたな。つくづく面白い男だよ、お前は。
この痛みは。
Oh, look. That thing we talked about before.
ほうほう。
You're being called back into service.
Yeah.
それにしても随分とまた早かったな。
But for who?
バカな。契約にはぐれたサーバントなどいないというのに、なぜ新たにマスターが選ばれるのだ。
どうやら聖杯は琴峰綺麗によほどの期待を託している様子だな。綺麗、お前もまた聖杯の求めに応じるべきだ。紛れもなくお前には
Yeah, who do you summon now?
だけの理由がある。
Yeah.
私が聖杯を。
それが真に万能の願望機であるならば、聖杯はお前自身にすら理解の及ばぬ心の奥底の願望をそのままに形を与えて示すことだろう。
願望の何たるかを知り得ぬ。
I don't.
願望機
I actually liked that choice.
No, I mean, it implies that it granted him the first power to push somebody else's, and then when he used that up, gave him a second chance for his own desire. It's either that or it's giving him two chances at his own desire, in which case, what's the point of ever losing? Or what's the drawback of losing if it will give you a second chance?
Yeah.
そもそも前提としてお前は他のマスターとの契約下にある
And I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna get a bunch of comments about how we didn't understand this right.
ならば一層いや言うまい。ここから先は万事がお前次第なのだから。求めるところをなすがいい。
So he also doesn't
それこそが娯
have
楽の本道だ。そして
a
娯楽は
servant.
優越を導く。
Not yet, he has to summon
優越
something.
は幸福のありかを
That's what
指し示
he
す
said before. You better get
道
down
は
to
示さ
summoning.
れているぞ、綺麗。
Yeah.
もはや惑うまでもないほど明確にな。
Also didn't realize he had like fucking reptile eyes. Also, we're 90 hours from the end? I'm assuming that was the 90-hour mark, not 90-day mark.
Think so?
Also, I'm just putting it together now that the chessboard is this. What was the archer on the chessboard? What piece was that?
Hold on. I want to say the rook.
I
No, the
mean,
knight.
It can't be the knight. Ryder would. Come on. Who is going to be the knight out of these people? It's going to be Ryder.
I'm talking about positioning on the board.
Yeah, but I just mean, well,
'Cause
to
I
be
know
fair,
it
they
wasn't
don't
on the
double up,
edge.
do they?
So, and I know it wasn't the edge, and I know it wasn't the king or the queen.
I would have assumed that his chessboard, he would have made himself the king. Although I have no idea who would have been the queen. I guess Saber would have been because of
He was
sexism.
more so. He was either in the position of knight or bishop.
I don't know. I would instantly think Ryder, because my whole thought process was Ryder has to be the knight when it comes to all this, and although technically in the theme things, Berserker could be the knight.
一番槍はいただくぞ。
仕留めるなら今が絶好のチャンスね。決着をつけるぞ。
きっとこの世界は神様の愛に満ちてるよ。
今再び我らは救世の旗を掲げよう。
Weird quote from Castra there. No, I'm just
Also,
thinking that
the
because it's the
Forbidden Banquet is an
yeah, it's a weird
episode
name.
title.
You and me have different thoughts on episode names, but no, just the mobility of the knight as a chess piece would I would assume Ryder, but the word knight I would then assume Berserker could also fulfill, but then technically Lancer could also fulfill that because he was kind of a knight in his own theme.
I would do Berserker as Rook.
No. I mean, if I was gonna say Berserker based on peace movement, I would say Queen. Because he is fucking insane and moves about wherever the fuck he wants.
The reason why, so I did it also based off peace movement, but I did it more in the fact of Berserker charges. There is no going, like, there's no veering, there's no swerving,
I mean,
so it's that
that's
forward
fair.
movement.
That's fair, but I was thinking also that the Rook is too basic of movement for Berserk, because Berserker just fucking goes.
But that's the thing, if you look at all of the servants summoned, Berserker is the most basic of them all.
Well, I think the same reason that you gave him the Rook is the same reason I gave him Queen. I just gave the Queen more movement. You saying it charges, and I'm saying, yeah, in every direction.
So I would actually put Ryder as the queen and Arthur as the king.
I say I was giving Ryder Knight because of mobility. Unpredictable. Well, actually, maybe. Then again, everything works for me here. Berserker could be the Knight because of unpredictable mobility.
Because also, Arthur as the king makes sense because Arthur has the least mobility. Not even just in the way that Arthur fights, but also in the amount of responsibility and the things that Arthur is doing.
Sure, but then we take the word into reference. They're also, amongst the kings, the least regarded as a king. So, in every aspect, there's like triple meanings to every fucking thing. And of course, all the pawns, I guess, would just be the masters. As it turns out, even though they're technically leading from it's Gilgamesh's board. So, the masters are the least important aspect of everything. Oh, not technically, because to this episode, we're discussing what all the masters care about, and nobody gives a shit that Ryder has his own wish.
Yep.
All we discussed was the fact that Ryder's master has no wish. No care for the fact that Waver might wish that Ryder's wish be the thing. Although I'm assuming Waver actually has a wish. We just don't know it.
Yeah. I think I would have to assume so, but I don't think we've been given any detail.
We know that he has this whole theory about how magic works and that he doesn't like the sorry, I want to say Hightower? Is that the magic organization in this world? I cannot remember.
Yes.
He has this whole thing about Lord Mel whatever and the Hightower and how they disrespected him for his new beliefs and how things should work. So, and we also know he's kind of underhanded enough to put a spell on two old people to make them believe that he's their kid so he could live in their house. So, I don't know. He could want anything for all we know.
It's true, and it's very like we also don't know how damaged that psyche actually is.
I mean, when it comes to damaged psyche, I'm talking more about Lord what's his name, after he got tortured by his wife to try and give up the crest, which he might have actually given up on. not as a regard of want to, but of just being having tortured out of him. Because I believe she also said, I could just cut your arm off and that would do it too. So
Yeah.
that may or may not have happened. It's all the element of Lancer saying, I won't follow you even if you have the crest. As I'm a man of honor, I'm here to serve the person who summoned me, not the person who commands me. Because
Correct.
she could command him to do stuff, but then he would do that thing and then not care afterwards. I mean,
Yes.
then depends on the scope of the command. Because could she then command spell him to listen to her?
Yeah, like that's that's the thing about the command spells too. Like once you like using it is a double-edged sword.
Well, you have like what, 3 of them? But I mean, I'm saying if he won't listen to you, how far does a command spell go? Can you? I command you to listen to me.
So it's not even that. What it is, it's like the idea of, and I see this a lot because it's how I manage a lot of stuff when I'm dealing with work. I hate to force people to do things. I think it's pointless, and I think no, well, not pointless. I think it does serve a point, but I think it's detrimental if you have to be like, hey, I need like stop what you're doing, whatever it is, do this now. Versus the idea of being able to be like, hey, can you grab this? Like the moment you take dignity away from an interaction, it kind of takes away your ability to impact a situation. So if
It's
you
the
have to use a
element of
command
want
spell,
to.
yeah,
A person that
if you're
wants to do something will do it more efficiently and effectively than somebody who is told to do something who's trying to get out of doing it.
exactly. So if you have to, so if you if you have to use 2 command spells to get something to get stuff done, by the time you use that third, if you've just been going against that person's moral standing,
Well,
the moment that third command spell is gone, they're like, well, okay, thanks.
well, 2 things come up here. One brings to mind the previous conversation that we had about Gilgamesh and the whole fact that he ordered him to run away from a battle he didn't want to run away from, when the implication has already been made that he's subservient to Gilgamesh as a matter of the pact of summoning. So there's that element there, but there's also the element to what we originally were discussing before we jumped into that, of Lord What's-His-Name's wife trying to then command Lancer, and Lancer's obedience being to Lord What's-His-Name. I'm just gonna keep saying What's-His-Name because his name is fucking weird. Mellow something or other. But the idea being that if you could command him to listen to you, again, the element of how long would that last, but also to what willingness, right?
Yeah.
To like, will he become just a mindless servant? There's a thing that I've been doing a lot in my spare time, which is just messing around with AI chatbots that do like roleplay stuff.
Yep.
Because they always play with the element of my willpower is amazing, or my I will resist with everything I have. There's always going to be some ember of resistance if you tell them to do something they don't want to do, and that you can roleplay yourself down that pit. What I'm saying, I'm using AI as an example here, but you can roleplay yourself down that pit of forcing them to do what you want them to do, which is a horrible argument when you're trying to force an AI who's programmed to not do a thing. Force it down there, and by the time you finally get them into a position where they'll do the things that you want them to do, they're not the same thing anymore. They start off as characters of vast will and depth and everything like that, like you're interacting with a novel. And by the time you've broken them down enough that they'll do the things you want them to do, they're no longer those characters anymore. Which is why I subvert it with the whole, if you made the command spell to turn Lancer into the person that will do what you want to do, and not the honorable person that does the commands of the person that summoned them, would they even be the Lancer that you want to command anymore?
No, that's very much true.
It's less the having a person at work who wants to do the work versus the person who's just trying to get off of work, and more so the, does this fundamentally change them? If I say, hey, go break down those boxes and put them into the compactor, I need that done before you leave today, and the person is just, I just want to hang out and talk to my coworker for the rest of the time and get out of here. If I tell them to do that, and they quit tomorrow because they can't have the job that they want to have, is it fundamentally change the person who I'm working with?
Yeah, no, that's a bigger argument. That's circumstantial.
Well, I mean, again, if I command Lancer, obey me from now on, and he no longer has that honor in him that made him into the person who would follow a person who has no longer even a sigil on their hand.
But I don't even think
would he even be the person who wants to fight with Saber anymore?
I think that would push against the limit of the command spell.
Well, technically, we're already past that consideration, right? Technically, by the rules of everything here, you follow the person with the crest. Now, dude may have gotten his hand cut off, and she certainly had something on her hand. I think we were joking last time that she may have drawn it on her hand to fool him. But it's not impossible, because we don't see him again to know if he got his arm cut off or gave up. So, the fact that then Lancer's like, I don't care who has the crest, I'm following the guy who summoned me, is already kind of a manipulation or a subversion of the whole thing.
Well, no, because that's just an adjustment of moral. That just shows Lancer's moral quandary. Like, Lancer's moral stance is, this is the purpose I'm here for. I was summoned by this person. I'm going to follow this person. Because a deal was made. Now, if the command spell is used, yeah, they'll follow through on the command, but they're not going to break their morals.
Right. But remember that this whole thing is who the Grail believes should be doing things. And that thus, if somebody else has the crest, it must be that the Grail believes that their will is the one that should be followed. So Lancer, by saying, no, I'm going to follow the guy without the crest, is already subverting the whole mechanism at play. Thus, this nearly the same as though somebody had commanded him to do so, because it's already a subversion of will. In this case, it's the Grail's will versus person, or I guess summon's will.
Yeah.
It's like the chessboard conversation we had moments ago. It's like three different ways to look at every single thing. All right. Well, I mean, anything else you want to bring up?
No.
Can't wait for the comments on this one.
All right.
Once again, I have been Theta. This has been Justin. We've been Stone-Faced Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?